Alright guys, before I start this video, I want to make sure you pick up one of these tools. This is a rental from AutoZone. Now you can get these type of tools from pretty much any of the auto parts stores that typically are just going to rent them to you, or in this case it was a $35 purchase if I want to keep it, so not expensive. If you have an AutoZone near you, this is the number. This is going to make life a lot easier. You're going to see in this video where I struggled trying to use other tools that should have worked but just didn't get the job done. It ended up costing me an extra 3 hours of work that I didn't need to do, stress and headache. So pick this up. This is a tie rod end remover. Before you start, this is the only tool that you'll really need that's a specialty tool to do this job. Alright guys, now back to the video. What's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Pete. This is Pete's Carport. Behind me is my 1991 500 SL, and I can't tell you guys how much I absolutely love this car, and I love the fact that you guys have been enjoying it, filling me in on the videos, and just giving me positive feedback, and giving me your guys' experience with either this car or your favorite Mercedes. Today we're really jumping into the last item that is mechanical that I noticed when I first picked up this car I needed to do. It should be a pretty easy one. I have like 2 hours of daylight, so I'm really hoping I can get this done. I do have other options to drive, but I really want to drive this car tomorrow. It's been in the low 80s every day. Gorgeous, gorgeous weather out here in Tampa, Florida, and I've been able to drive with the top down every single day. Oh, also, for those that I let you guys know I was going to be working on fixing the top, I got that done. I hope to put out a video. Really awesome. I used some clear glue and some other things to fix the plastic parts on the soft top that had either cracked or kind of came apart, and I was able to remove what the old owner put on there, which was some I'm pretty sure it was Gorilla Glue because it was a yellow foamy looking glue. But let's jump into what this video is about, and that is we're going to be replacing our tie rod, specifically on our passenger front side here. It's a pretty easy thing to do. It's pretty straightforward, and I just picked up a part. Actually, I ordered it from FCP Euro. Awesome company. They do lifetime warranty on everything you buy from them, and they use factory replacement parts and factory brands, and everything they send out comes with their lifetime warranty, so they'll replace it if anything happens to it, and their pricing is wholesale. It's extremely inexpensive compared to anybody else out there that's selling quality parts. So this is the tie rod here. I'll leave the part number down below in case you guys need to replace that, but there it is right there. And basically what we're going to do is pull out the old one, and I'll show you guys why we're replacing this and what is going on once I get the car jacked up. We'll pull the old part out, we'll line it up with this, make sure it's the same length, and then of course we'll take the car down after this and get the car aligned. So let's go ahead and get set up now. Okay, so we've got the car jacked up, we've got jack stands in place, and we want to go ahead and check to see if our tie rods are good or bad. So let's say you notice some play in the front of your car or in the rear, but in this case it's the front, and you wanted to check to see if it's control arms, tie rods. You're going to check different things. So in my case, my car was starting to get a pretty violent rocking, shaking right around 60 miles an hour. When I say violent, it wasn't so crazy that I couldn't drive, but I could tell there was something wrong. And I actually had the car jacked up for several days and was able to notice that the tie rods didn't look good. But if you hadn't had a chance to jack up the car and look closely, the first test you can do to check the tie rods is wiggle your wheel back and forth. And you see how mine moves? It should not have any play. And then to check the control arms and other parts of the suspension, you're going to wiggle it this direction, and once again you shouldn't have any play, which I don't. So one of the things it also could be is your tire balance. So if your tires, let's say you got new tires put on, or let's say your tires were getting uneven wear, the balance of the tires could be out too, which could cause a vibration, usually between 40 and 60 miles an hour. In my case, like I said, mine's starting at about 60, and I already noticed that my tie rod did not look good when I had the rim off. So the second thing we're going to do now is turn our wheel all the way so we can take a closer look at our tie rods and control arms, and then we're going to take the wheel off to further investigate it, and then we're going to remove our tie rod. Okay, now that we've got the rim off, make sure you definitely have jack stands in place. and you just want to take a look at your bushings. And this is my issue right here. You can see this is the outer tie rod and your inner one's inside there. We could have just replaced this part here, but since they had the whole thing pretty inexpensive online, I think I paid 45 bucks for the entire unit, I just went ahead and ordered the entire replacement, because if this side's going, eventually that side will go too. So we're going to be replacing this entire thing. And you can see here, there's a bolt right here. Usually there's 17 millimeters, I believe, and there's one on the inside tie rod as well too. So let's go ahead and get this off so we can take a closer look at this so we know exactly the length and everything when we go to put the other unit back in. It shouldn't take too much force. They're just kind of in there due to the pressure of the wheel being turned, so they should knock out pretty easy. Some people even like to bang on this bar here to kind of vibrate this loose. Keep in mind, if you are keeping either the inner or outer, do not bang directly on this. You can easily damage the threads or bend this metal post here. So just keep that in mind. Either use like a rubber mallet or a piece of 2x4 works really good on there, and just kind of hit it through. It will fall out. It might not seem like it's going to go, but it will go. Okay, so I was a little bit wrong. This one came off super easy. Basically what you want to do is bang it right along this area here, and make sure you got yourself a nice heavy duty hammer like this one here, and that'll knock right loose. This back one is a whole different story. I actually tried to use one of these picks here. Thought it would definitely work. I got some massive wax on it. I even got it up there in an angle, and it would not go. So this is the next resort. It is going to be using, basically, it's a kind of like a two-prong bearing puller, and I got it up under there. I'm basically going to hook up the wrench. Hopefully we can pop this loose, because that's really the only thing that's difficult to get to. Of course, leave a comment if you guys have a better technique. There are a lot of tools out there you could use. In fact, you probably could whack it from underneath and eventually get it to come loose. But I don't want to damage anything, so I'm going to go ahead and hook this up and pop it loose. Alright guys, so after showing you all the wrong or more difficult ways of getting your tie rods off and destroying the tie rod, which we'll get to in a second, I decided that let's go ahead and do this the correct way using the correct tool. And I am mad at myself, but at the same time, it's a learning lesson, and I hope that you guys learn from this and don't make some of the same silly mistakes I made. I spent almost 3 hours trying to remove the inner tie rod and doing it with tools that just weren't working. So after I left here last night, I stopped at the auto parts store, and of course, you can rent these for absolutely nothing. You have to put the money down for the tool, but if you don't return it, you get to keep it. This tool, only $35 at AutoZone. That's the number there in case you're looking to get it, is the exact tool that you will need to remove your tie rods on your Mercedes. Now, we're going to also be doing the W126, so I'm going to be using this tool from the beginning, but learn from me. Go get the tools, get yourself set up properly. I was trying to get this done in the matter of an hour and a half. It got dark, and I was still trying to do this. Finally, I said, let me step away and figure out how to do this the correct way. Go down to the auto parts store, and of course, they had a very specific tool that works great. I've already went ahead and even looked at putting this up in there, and it fits perfectly and is going to do exactly what we need to pop the tie rod out. So let's get out there. I'm going to show you guys where we're at and how this is going to remove it. Okay, so you can see it's a pretty simple setup. Goes right in. All we're going to do is there's a 19 millimeter nut on the end there. You tighten that up, and it's going to pop that bearing that we broke off. As you guys can see here, that is the other end of the tie rod. We thought we had it yesterday. We had that pitchfork thing in there and was prying at it, standing on it. It popped up, and we got excited and realized all we did was break off the end of the tie rod. But this is an easy fix. I'll get up under there, tighten this up, pop it right out, and we'll go ahead, measure this out next to the new one, and get that new one put in. Well, like I said, this tool made it so much easier. 5 seconds, turned it, this thing went flying out, and we're on our way now to getting this done. So the next step now is going to be, you want to line this as close to the way it was in the car as possible so that you can drive it down to get it aligned, and that should give you a pretty decent alignment if you match up and your car was already in line. So the easiest way to do this is to match up the amount of actual turns that are in here. So basically each one of these lines you can count, and it's sitting right on the 7th one here. And from the factory, this one was sitting right on the 8th one. So I'm going to turn this in a little bit like that, and then we'll go ahead and this is your tighten. You want to tighten this down to lock it in place. Same thing on this other side. You're going to basically match up the amount of threads over there with the amount of threads that you have over here, and this turns, and then you tighten this counterclockwise up against there, and that'll keep that from coming out. That's going to give you close to your alignment. You still want to bring it down to get the alignment done. So let me go ahead and get this set up. I'll show you guys the next step, and really that's just putting this into place where it was and then tightening up your nuts, and I'll give you guys the torque specs on that. Okay, fill-in time. So basically the way that these shafts work is because these are going to be loose in here until you tighten them and they get snug in there, you're going to need to put an Allen key, and I think it was a 5mm Allen key, and then I've got this ratchet wrench, but you can see that just spins and it's kind of hard to hold this. So what I did was I came up with an idea to slide on a longer bar here for brace and wedge that up against here, and now I can tighten that without that spinning. So that's just a little trick until it gets tight enough to where it starts to, the shaft starts to actually go into the hole without spinning. Then you can torque it down. I believe I found online, there's a lot of debate on it, so I'm gonna go on, I'm gonna call a shop and find out the exact torque spec. Alright guys, it's all back together, and just so you know, the torque spec was basically 45 foot-pounds at 60 Newton meters, just like the other 19mm bolts that we did on the drive shaft. So they use pretty much the same type of torque specs on these 19mm bolts. So it doesn't have to be too snug, just make sure you get it right around 44 to 45 foot-pounds of torque. Alright guys, so I took it for a spin and it's a success. Everything's working great. It's a little out of alignment, but that is expected. Very easily I could drive down now and get the full alignment done, which I'm going to do. But I want to mention it once again, and I will mention this at the beginning of the video. Get the right tools. You know, don't follow what I did wrong and try to use something that it kind of works, because in this situation I wasn't able to use a tool that wasn't specifically designed for removing the tie rod ends, and this is a OEM brand. That's the brand tie rod end remover from AutoZone. It was 35 bucks to rent. That means I can get my 35 bucks back, or I can keep the tool and it would cost me 35 bucks. They also told me if I go back down, they can order me in a brand new one, never used, and it'll be 35 bucks. And I think they said it even comes with a lifetime replacement. Absolute perfect deal if you've got, like me, plenty of these cars. And this is something that you're commonly going to be changing out on older vehicles. And it's not something you do every day, but it is something that you're going to have to change out eventually, because these pieces do go bad, and suspension is very important in these luxury vehicles to have running perfectly. So once again, my name's Pete. This is Pete's Carport. Take it from me, don't try to do this with tools that are not specifically designed for doing this. You're just going to cause yourself headaches and possibly damage more things. Go down, pick up the right tools. Like I said, this is just a rental. It doesn't even cost you anything and will make your life and job way easier. So I'm going to mention that at the beginning of the video. I'm going to mention it now at the end of the video. This is the best thing you can do, is picking up the proper tools to make this job as easy of a job as it is. Probably an hour max, so you can do this anytime during the week and get on your way. Have a great day. My name's Pete. This is Pete's Carport. I hope you guys learned something, as I did today. Have a blessed week, guys.